You know, one of the fun parts of the documentary on The Last Dance, the Jordan documentary with the Bulls, is you're seeing footage and you're seeing a lot of these people that I saw pretty much every summer in May and June, where you'd see them when I'd be out there with the Sports Center and you'd see the Chicago Bulls playing against whoever, Seattle, or if it was Utah or Portland or the Lakers, whoever it would be. And one of those people I always enjoyed running into because he always had something smart to say, something smart that he was writing about was Sam Smith. He wrote the book, The Jordan Rules. He also co-authored Derrick Rose's autobiography, I'll Show You, Bulls.com writer, longtime Bulls NBA writer. Sam, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us. How have you been?
I've been great, Dan. Good to see you again. I see you're not on ESPN. Is that right?
Yes, I finally left. Yeah. I'm glad you stayed following my career, Sam. That's why you're a great reporter. Thank
Exactly.
you.
I think that was the point about being smart.
When you were, tell people what the Jordan Rules was about.
Um, it's sort of double entendre in a sense, and that was not covered in the documentary. Not that it should be either, but it was sort of a play off the Pistons' defense, which was essentially a trapping defense. When they finally realized, we can't play this guy. We've got great defenders, Joe Dumars, Dennis Rodman, and he's beating us all by himself. So we're going to double team and triple team him and just guide him to places on the floor for Jordan rules. And well, the Bulls Jordan rules, and sometimes was, and Phil Jackson used to say a lot, the pretty girl gets kissed. You were around Phil a lot. Said, the Bulls had an internal rule. It was sort of a joking thing, internal rule that, if you were sick, you had to come in, see the trainer, get treated, get medicine, go home. And when Jordan got sick, the trainer went to his house. So they were different Jordan rules. But the book essentially was just supposed to be really an innocent and simple diary of a season. Back then, if you remember, Bird and Magic were the NBA. Isaiah, it was about sharing. It was about making players better. It wasn't about scoring. And the notion was, well, no, Michael, you can't win with Michael. People wrote that all the time, said, he's great. He's a star. He's the MVP. We love watching him, but you're not going to have a winning team that way because he scores too much. He doesn't involve his teammates. So the Bulls are trying to get through the Pistons. And I've been traveling with the team several years and thought, oh, had my dream job working for a newspaper. All really ever wanted. It was great fun. And I see these guys who've written books and have read books, and now I'm starting to meet them. And I go, well, they're not so smart. Maybe I can do that too. So David Halberstam's Breaks of the Game about the Blazers in the late 70s was always really my favorite basketball book because it was a story, beyond the game about the people and the elements of being a team together over the season. So I said, well, maybe I'll do something like that in my spare time. And, what's more important in life is, for the most part, is, well, health these days, of course, but being in the right place at the right time. And I happened to be, picked the season 90-91. And instead of Jordan breaking his foot in game 3, like he did in 86, the Bulls end up upsetting, Portland doesn't get there. They were the favored. Then they beat Magic in the finals. And now I've got a diary of Michael Jordan and the Bulls winning a title, which happens to come out right about the time Jordan skips the trip to the White House to go on a gambling weekend with Slim Buller and a bunch of this, unbeknownst to him, convicted drug dealers and things. So everything sort of blows up at once. So this story, gambling, all this sort of stuff. And I'm going, I was just said, hey, I just wanted to peel back the curtain a little bit, show you what a season's like.
Did Jordan know you were writing that book?
Oh yeah, they all knew.
Okay.
I had told guys the season, and what I'm proud about the book, I mean, of course, it's taken 30 years, and now I've got validation because Michael sort of copped to it now and said, yeah, I could be a jerk sometime. Yeah, because back then it was, well, Michael is a perfect, marketing figure, and he's up in the treehouse to deliver the kids Coke and Coca-Cola, and is with the shoes, and the kids are dancing and singing, be like Mike. And well, how could he be like this? How could he say, Horace Grant, you can't eat today on the plane going home because you played badly? Or, Bill Cartwright, don't throw him the ball because he's got 15 fingers. He won't catch it. Throw it to him. If you throw it to him, I'm not throwing it to you. Michael wouldn't do those things. And so now Michael, that's to me have been the great thing about about the documentary, seeing him the way we saw him in the '80s, open and funny and challenging, and these interviews have just been the best part of it to me
When did
anyway.
he change, Sam?
It was really in the early night. Obviously, the confluence of events, the celebrity, the success, and now the controversies. Again, obviously the book to some extent. And like I said, I had been traveling with the team several years and told all the players and him too before. We had a good relationship. I had played golf with him and been around him a lot. And said, I'm going to write a book about the behind the scenes with the team, but nobody's going to lose their job and nobody's going to be embarrassed with their family. It's just going to be what it's like, and that's what I felt it was. Then with that, then the gambling thing comes up. He had skipped the trip to the White House to do this. Imagine what that would be like today. Uh, and then in New York during the playoffs, he's not going to Atlantic City. Or he goes to Atlantic City, and the New York papers make a big fuss about it, which was really a stupid story. But nevertheless, he's starting to feel all these years. And I've sat and talked with you guys and been accommodating. And he really was. He was the best guy in the league to deal with for a star. Maybe Magic is the only one even close as far as accommodating and friendly and open. And essentially from that point on, he began to become reclusive to the point. I mean, once he retired, he's become this complete recluse. Which so I've really been surprised he did the documentary. But again, he's so far out ahead of all of us, that this thing just becomes this icon. It's amazing what the documentary's become.
Oh, I think it's strategic. I thought it was brilliant marketing, Sam, on a couple of fronts. He's introducing himself to a new generation, reintroducing himself to our generation, but he's also sending a message to LeBron James and any of his fans uh, that, hey, you think LeBron is getting up there near me? The fact that he agreed to do this documentary on the day LeBron won the title with Cleveland, Sam, that's not a coincidence. It's a 10 hour reminder of just how great Michael Jordan is.
Yeah, I'd like to say that not the case, but I actually think you're right.
How is your relationship with Jordan now?
He doesn't really have relationships with media people for the most part because he doesn't have to. He owns a team, he's a billionaire, and he just built his own golf course. But once he came back in '95, and you see now with the interviews, he says, I'm Michael Jordan. Nobody, I'm sort of lint in a snowstorm to him. All of us are. So I've run into him a few times in Charlotte with the Bulls. I still travel occasionally with the Bulls. I write on their team website now. And he was great. One time, like a couple of years ago, saw him in Charlotte, and he said, "Hey, I just got back. Just came up from Jupiter, changing diapers today." That's whatever. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but it sounded like a good story. So he's been good. He'd come around, but interesting thing is he never comes to Chicago ever. Even
Yeah.
even at the All-Star game this year, he never even came out and made an appearance. So it was remarkable. But maybe now with and the other thing what you said with the timing with the LeBron and everything, he's actually a figure for this era more than any because this is not an era of depth. This is an era of like success, highlights, and memes, however pronounce that. And he sort of fits perfectly into this because he's well spoken, good looking, and comes up with hot takes all the time. He- he's like evolved perfectly into this era.
What did the documentary not capture? If you're going to have one item.
Yeah, it's to me, it's sort of like based on a true story. Like we see a lot of these movies. I think everything they're talking about basically happened, but elements of it
That's
get
good.
get over, get forgotten about. Like when he provoked the Pistons into that walkout. He really did. They were up 3-0 to Bulls, and he went to practice the day before. I remember sitting there, and he just eviscerates this two-time champion, three-time finals team as unworthy, shouldn't be a champion. The NBA should take away their trophies, and that's really what motivated him to do this. It wasn't this walkout that this revisionist history the Pistons came up with later. And I've also loved the Seinfeld Festivus thing where he's airing of all his grudges still 30 years later. Krause and Isaiah and everybody, making fun of Gary Payton. How dare anyone challenge me? It's been amazing stuff. It's been just great stuff to watch.
Yeah, and you're right. It is based off a true story because Michael's team is helping produce this, and Michael gets the last word with everything.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it because it's a chance to let people in, the window into our world back then, Sam, when it was pretty crazy following the Bulls. You did it every day. I was there for the finals, and as I told people back then and remind them now, Michael, every NBA Finals that I was there for ESPN, he would tell the PR guy, Tim Hallam, and he would say, Tim would come in and he'd say, Mike's not going to do after every win. He'll do it after every championship. Once we win the championship, he'll come in and he's going to do the interview with you on SportsCenter. I mean, that was magical. I was so lucky that I was there to help document that. And, I forever indebted to ESPN allowing me to have that moment to capture that with Michael Jordan. Whether I have a relationship or, he likes me or didn't want me in the documentary, I couldn't care less. I was there to see that up front, personal, and, that was magical. It really was. It was a magical, magical time.
Yeah, when you're going through history, and it's your day-to-day life, you don't sort of realize that, I wasn't at the Gettysburg Address. Came not sure after that, but I'm sure those people, in Gettysburg listening to Lincoln going, well, they're not thinking 200 years from now, people are going to be talking about this and asking me where I was. But, and that's what it was. We're running into the airport. We're trying to catch the next plane, get to the next
Yeah.
spot. But also reminds me, you mentioned Tim Hallam with that. It reminds me of what it was like with Michael, because even just before the championships, we'd be traveling and everybody wanted to see him. And you see a lot of these, after the game, celebrities and Jerry Seinfeld around and whoever. And so we were in Washington one time and somebody came in and said to Tim about this queen from some European country or something, wanted to see Michael. And they came in and Michael said he was busy being taped or whatever. And Tim said, hey, there's a queen in every city. We don't worry about it.
Do you realize this, Sam? I don't know if anybody ever did a story on this, and maybe you could tell me if it's true or not. Every time I interviewed Jordan after he won a title, every single time, he had his shoes off, and Tim Hallam had him with him. And I remember Tim saying that Michael always promised me his shoes. And I'm going to guess Tim has 6 pairs of Michael Jordan shoes from when he won those 6 titles. Did you ever hear this?
No, actually, Michael used to give away the shoes all the time. He wore a different pair of sneakers at every game he played in his entire career.
But this is the NBA Finals clinching game.
I know that. If Tim's got those, I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, you should.
But I'm surprised he's still working if he's got those, because that's an investment.
Yeah, Tim's got a new house, I think. Yeah, he paid for it in shoes there. But yeah, Mike would come in, shirt tail out, drenched in champagne, Cuban cigar, and Tim Hallam would be behind him with his shoe. One time he said, Mike, take off your shoes. And Mike took off his shoes before he did the interview with us and gave them to Tim. And I think that was what that's all he ever asked from Michael was, can I have your shoes after we win the championships? And
it's actually a big ask. What do you think those would get these days?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't.
Michael Jordan signed shoes, game worn championship shoes.
Yeah.
I got to, because Tim is still working for the Bulls in the same job. And he dresses very modestly.
It's a smart move. He doesn't want to let anybody read between the lines there. It's great to talk to you, Sam. And I meant when I said I enjoyed all of those years being able to be out there in Chicago, the wonderful members of the media for the most part. And just, you're right. I look back and I'm reminded that we got to chronicle history and we got to be around, somebody that will never be around again in our lifetime.
Yeah, it was great fun. It was good to see you again. And hopefully if there's another great documentary, I'll get on your show again.
Thank you, Sam. That's Sam Smith, the author of The Jordan Rules. Also, He wrote the Derek Rose, he co-wrote that. Derek Rose, I'll Show You. That's available on triumphbooks.com, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and through your local independent bookstore.